Thank you. Jazakallah. I invite Brother Reza to please commence this evening with the Quran recitation. Please give him a loud salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الذين يتبعون الرسول النبي الأمي الذي يجدونه مكتوبا عندهم في التوراة والإنجيل يأمرهم بالمعروف وينهاهم عن المنكر ويحل لهم الطيبات ويحرم عليهم الخبائث ويحرم عليهم الخبائث ويضع عنهم إصرهم والأغلال التي كانت عليهم فالذين آمنوا به وعزروه ونصروه واتبعوا النور الذي أنزل معه أولئك هم المفلحون. قل يا أيها الناس إني رسول الله إليكم جميعا الذي له ملك السماوات والأرض لا وكلماته الذي يؤمن بالله وكلماته واتبعوا لعلكم تهتدون ومن قوم موسى أمة يهدون بالحق وبه يعدلون ومن قوم موسى أمة يهدون بالحق وبه يعدلون بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أحسن. طيب الله خير. أحسن. طيب الله خير.
Please recite another salawat for Brother Rizq for that beautiful recitation. So,
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
we'd first like to congratulate and welcome everybody for the second night of Sayyid Hossein al Qazwini's lectures on our beloved Sayyid Fatima alayhi salam. Last night's lectures were giving us a message of what to choose, your dunya or your akhirah. The dunya is and has always been very tempting for us. It doesn't matter whether you're a Muslim or a non-Muslim. It is with the dunya that we are distracted from our obligations as Muslims. I invite everybody in this community to become active members of society, to represent the Ahl Bayt mission, to promote the love of Ahl Bayt alayhi salam and their mission and their objectives. We ask everyone to make a commitment to participate in these programs, whether as a volunteer, as a supporter, or whether you just promote the message. It's important that we as a community become more united and more supportive towards one another. Islam is the religion for all of mankind. It has no subjectiveness towards culture or language. It is an invitation for everyone to come and worship the one true God, which is why it attracted somebody like me, who was born from a country that had no idea of such names as Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The names like Ali alayhi salam, Fatima. I didn't know who these people were. And I had been searching for something my whole life that was complete, that had no gaps missing. Because every message and every religion is promoting good. But most religions, all religions, from what I had discovered, had something missing. They didn't have the perfect system. They didn't have all of the answers that I needed to know about creation, about science, about family, marriage, raising children. There was something that wasn't there, and the only answer that had everything completed was Islam. And the right understanding that had all the answers was the understanding and the tafsir of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. As Shia, I believe that sometimes the Shia take for granted what they have been born into. For someone like me, I spent 5 years searching for this beautiful family, wanting to know exactly where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the final message to. Who was the highest wali from all of creation? I want to share with you a description of what I learned from Nabi Isa alayhi salam. There is a scripture that I would love for you to all read. It's called the Scripture of Barnabas. And Barnabas was a disciple of Isa alayhi salam. And his scripture was actually rejected by the Roman Catholic Church because it didn't comply with what they wanted people to know about the truth. Before Isa alayhi salam left this world, he said to Barnabas, "My dear Barnabas, after me there shall come a man, and his name will be Ahmed. He is the speaker of truth. He is the one that will confirm what I and all the other prophets have sent to this world. He is the light that was created before anything else was created. He is the purest, most brightest Nur. I command you, Barnabas, to seek him, to find him, and from him all things shall be revealed. And through him you will find the complete book." Barnabas asked Isa alayhi salam, "How shall we know this man? How will we know if somebody comes with the name of Ahmed, if he is the right one that you're talking about?" So Isa alayhi salam said, "From him you will understand that he's from Arabia. And he will come from the family of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And through him the 12 princes shall be born. And from this family their blood will be spilled by the river Euphrates in a great sacrifice." So you see, brothers and sisters, there was no confusion for me to fall into the Ahl Sunnah theology, because I was confirmed that these were the people that had completed the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The love of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam shouldn't just come from our mouths, but it should be through our actions and through the way we treat each other. I am from an Asian background, half Asian, Filipino, and Filipino people are generally very soft people. So we are not used to such complexities in the cultures that exist in the Muslim community. So I ask that the Shia understand the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam's simplicity, their kindness, and the way that they would approach the ummah. I loved the description of Imam Ali alayhi salam, how he was so gentle. The way he would speak to the believers, he was soft. He wasn't rough. He wasn't egotistical. He didn't have any pride. His command was with patience and gentleness. But yet he was one of the greatest Khalifa, the greatest ruler. If his message, if his way, his system that is written in Nahj al-Balagha was applied today in our society, we would live in such a beautiful world. Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, a role model for us sisters. The way that she would look after her sisters, the way she cared about other women. She was compassionate, she cared, she loved, she taught, and her home was always open to the ummah. They never closed their doors, and they never had a bad day. I'm not going to go and speak to these people today. They annoyed me yesterday. Truly, their patience and their compassion and their love is an inspiration should be an inspiration to all of mankind. It was truly an inspiration to me to give up my life as a non-Muslim and walk from one life into another and commit myself to following in their footsteps, inshaAllah. Tonight we are very blessed here in the Salam Center. The Salam Center is a new facility here in Perth that I hope that all of you support. The initiative is to promote the message of Ahl Bayt alayhi salam here in this community. And we are very grateful, truly grateful, that a personality such as Sayyid Hossein al Qazwini would travel from such a far distance as Najaf to be with us here, to support us in this great cause. So without further ado, I ask you to please give 3 salawats for our wonderful guest here in Perth tonight.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before I begin, I'd like to say, first of all, I'd like to thank my dear sister, Abbas. I'd like to say that I'm the one that is honored to be here, and it shouldn't be the other way around. I'm a very, very, very ordinary and average person, and not the image, don't believe the image that Sister Maria gives you of me. I'm a very ordinary person. And I'm the one that is privileged and honored to be spending my time in this very wonderful and beautiful community. So thank you for having me. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه العبد المؤيد والرسول المسدد، حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وصحابته المنتجبين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي ابن رسول الله يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة ويا عبرة كل مؤمن ومؤمنة يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما لمصائب الزهراء هجرت المضجعا وأذلت قلبي من جفوني أدمعا أفكان من حكم النبي وشرعه أن تضرب الزهراء ضربا موجعا أوصى الإله بوصل عترة أحمد فكأنما أوصى بها أن تقطع لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أحسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون صلوا على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. This life that we live in is definitely not a happy life, at least not for everyone. You will see some people that are happy and are enjoying this life. They don't have complications. They don't have any financial burdens. They don't get into any car accidents. They don't have to worry about any loans. But how many people are actually like this? How many people in this world, how many people that you know have absolutely no complications in their lives? I assure you, there's none. Everyone has complications. Everyone faces some sort of troubles, problems, obstacles in life. Some people ask, well, why can't this life be just a perfect place without illnesses and diseases and car accidents and loans and hurricanes and tornadoes and volcanoes and earthquakes? Why can't things just be perfect? Why is there pain in this life? Why is there evil in this world? We hear people getting into car accidents. We hear people with illnesses and diseases without cures, like cancer. How many people do you know with cancer? Wal-'iyadhu billah. It's an illness that develops every day Every couple of days we hear of a new person with this illness. Why? Or even children that are born with illnesses or with a disability. Why is that? What sin has a child performed for it to be born with an illness or a disability, or for example a problem in its heart or lungs, or some sort of deficiency? Why? Why couldn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create a life free of problems, free of obstacles, free of diseases, accidents, natural disasters? Couldn't He have? Of course He could have. But He didn't. He created a life with obstacles and problems and illnesses and disasters and accidents. Some might say, but where's the justice in that? We believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just. He doesn't oppress anyone, He doesn't harm anyone. But where's the justice in a child being born with a deficiency? Where's the justice in a person who's religious, who seems religious, but gets into a car accident and he dies? Where's the justice in that? I know a family in Los Angeles. I used to live in Los Angeles many years ago. I know of a family who's very religious, very practicing. In fact, the husband who was wealthy, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had bestowed upon him a lot of wealth. Most of his wealth went to an Islamic center and an Islamic school. They were very pious, very religious. A very Islamic family. Yet one day, the husband and the wife and their daughter, and I knew the daughter, went to school together. They went on a personal jet, on a personal airplane. The man owned a personal jet. As he was taking off, something goes wrong with the engine, and they crash. As they were taking off, they crash, and the plane sets on fire. The wife, and they all get burnt. The father, the daughter, and the father, the wife, and the daughter, the husband, the wife, and the daughter. They all burn, and after a couple of weeks, of course they spent it in the hospital. After a couple of weeks, the wife dies. And the husband and the daughter, they were burnt so severely that if you were to see them, you would say, I wish they had died as well. And it was especially difficult for the daughter because she's young. She wasn't even married. She was maybe 19 or 20. At an age and when she's preparing for marriage, but now her face is all burnt. And I remember some people in the community, they ask, why would such a thing happen to such a family? You would expect this to happen to a family where the father drinks, they steal, the wife, for example, doesn't wear hijab, an unreligious family. But not a family like this. Why would something so evil happen to a family like this? This is the question that we'd like to answer tonight, my dear brothers and sisters. Why do bad things happen to good people? Why do we have evil in this world? Why do bad things exist? Why couldn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create a life that doesn't have problems? That is problem-free. That is pain-free. Why did He have to create a life that's full of problems and agony and pain and getting hurt? A life full of disappointment. What is the reason? Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Of course, I don't claim that I have the full answer. And we might not be able to cover all of the reasons tonight, but we'll try to touch upon some of the points in the limited time that we have. First of all, there are many reasons. Now, some reasons you will accept and it will make sense to you. And there are some reasons that you might reject and deny. First of all, when we come to the Quran, and these answers are based in the Quran, they're based from the Quran and from the Sunnah of the Hadith. The Quran, first of all, tells us, إن أصابتكم حسنة فمن الله وإن أصابتكم سيئة فمن عندي أنفسكم. If good things happen to you, those good things are from Allah. But if bad things occur to you, they're from whom? They're from you. They're from us. We human beings. Sometimes the things that happen to us, the things that we see in life, they are a result of our own actions. They're a result of our own actions. They're a result of our sins, of the mistakes that we perform. They come back to us. Do we think that our actions have no result? Some people, they think that their actions have absolutely no result. That's impossible. When a farmer plants a seed in the summer or winter, I don't know when's the time. Is he going to see the result or no? Whenever you plant a seed, you're definitely going to see the fruit. It's definitely going to happen. Unless someone comes out and digs the seed out. But otherwise, when you put in a seed, you're going to see its fruit, you're going to see its result. When we perform an action, whether a good action or a bad action, we'll definitely see its result. If it's a good deed, you'll see the result. The good deed will come back to you. And أحسنتم لأنفسكم وإن أسأتم فلها. Whether you do a good deed or a bad deed, in both cases, the consequence, the result, come back to you. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam one day told his companions that I've never done a good deed to anyone. I told him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, you've never done a good deed to anyone? If we say this, it's understandable. But you, Ya Ali ibn Abi Talib, you've never done a good deed to anyone? He said yes. And he recited this verse. And أحسنتم لأنفسكم. When I do good, I'm not doing it for others. Even if I were to pay a poor person $5,000, I'm not benefiting him. In reality, I'm benefiting whom? I'm benefiting myself. وَإِنْ أَسَأْتُمْ, again. And if you do a bad deed, it also comes back to you. So why are we shocked? Something bad happens to us. A lot of times, it's a result of our deeds. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam tells one of his companions by the name of Al-Mufaddal ibn Umar. He tells him, Ya Mufaddal, ittaqi dhunub wa haddirha shi'atana. Be careful of sins and tell our followers to be careful of sins, because sins don't go unnoticed. Sins are recorded and they have effects. Sins have effects. فَإِنَّ أَحَدُكُمْ لَيُحْرَمُ الرِّزْقِ وَمَا ذَلِكَ إِلَّا لِذَنْبٍ أَذْنَبَ. Some of you will have financial difficulties, the Imam says. That is because of a sin. Some people, they will undergo financial difficulties. They'll lose a job. They'll lose their salary. They'll have to get a loan. They have to look back. What is it that they've done? Perhaps there's a sin that they've committed that led them to this. وَأَنَّ أَحَدُكُمْ لَيُصَابُ السُّقْمَ فِي بَدَنِهِ وَمَا ذَلِكَ إِلَّا لِذَنْبٍ أَذْنَبَ. And perhaps some of you might fall ill. An illness, a disease. And the reason is because of a sin. Because he's committed something. The cause was the sin. The effect is the illness. It comes back. Some actions, we see the result here in this life. They come back to us. Can you throw a tennis ball at a wall, and the ball doesn't come back at you? Possible. Whenever you throw a ball, the ball will bounce back at you. If you throw it softly, it'll come back softly. You throw it hard, it'll come back hard. This is a life of cause and effect. We live in a life We live in a world of cause and effect. Our actions have consequences. They have repercussions. They have results that we are sometimes unaware of and we forget about. In a hadith Qudsi, Imam Sadiq says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِذَا عَصَانِي مَنْ يَعْرِفُنِي صَلَّقْتُ عَلَيْهِ مَنْ لَا يَعْرِفُنِي. If a person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these are the words of Allah. He says that if a person who knows me, yet still disobeys me, I will allow someone to harm him, someone who doesn't know me. Someone like Saddam Hussein. Someone like Saddam Hussein. Did Saddam Hussein know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Did he recognize Allah in his life? Did he worship Allah? No. Allah brings him to a group of people for 30 years or more. He destroys a country and he destroys a nation. Yes, Saddam Hussein was a tyrant and an oppressor, but sometimes our mistakes, our actions, our own hands, we bring such oppressors. We bring such oppressors and tyrants into our lives. إِذَا عَصَانِي مَنْ يَعْرِفُنِي صَلَّتْتُ عَلَيْهِ مَنْ لَا يَعْرِفُنِي. In another hadith, مَنْ خاف الله أخاف الله منه كل شيء ومن لم يخف الله أخافه الله من كل شيء. He who fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he who doesn't commit sins, he obeys Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will make sure that everyone else fears Him. Everyone else fears Him. I'm sure you know examples in your lives. I won't mention examples, especially political examples. But I'm sure you could think of some people, some groups, some individuals who fear Allah. Allah allows everyone else, makes everyone else fear them because they fear Allah. And he who doesn't fear Allah, Allah will make that person fear everything else. If a person doesn't fear Allah, Allah will make him fear everything else. He'll be afraid of getting into a car accident. He'll be afraid of getting an illness, getting a disease. He'll develop paranoia. He'll be scared of spiders. He'll be scared of heights. He'll be scared of his own wife. She'll be scared of her husband. And so on and so forth. مَنْ لَمْ يَخَفِ اللَّهِ أَخَافَهُ اللَّهُ مِنْ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. There's a result. It's impossible to commit a sin without seeing its result. A lot of times, the things that we see in life, they're a cause of our own, they're an effect of our own actions. We caused it. There was a Persian speaker. He said the following story. He said, I have a friend that fell ill at the hospital and he was about to die. He said, I went to visit him at the hospital. Just a week before, there was nothing wrong with him. He wasn't ill, he wasn't sick. He didn't even show symptoms of being ill. He said, now he called me and he said, I'm dying, I'm at the hospital, and I have either a day or 2 days to live. He said, I went to the hospital. I told him, what the heck happened to you? What's wrong with you? He said, I have cancer. And now that the doctors have diagnosed me and they've realized that I have cancer, they told me it's at a very advanced stage and it's too late for any chemotherapy or anything else. I'm dying either today or tomorrow. He told them, but what caused this? The man started crying. He said, to be honest, I know what the cause of my illness is. I'm the cause of my own illness. How? He said, about 2 years ago, my parents called me. My father and mother, they lived in another city. They called me, I went to visit them, and I saw my mother was very sick. My father asked me to stay with them to take care of my mother. I told him I can't, I have to go back. My wife and my kids are waiting for me, my business, my job, and I have more important things to do. He said, but this is your mother, and we don't have anyone else here. Do you expect the neighbors to come and help us out? This is your mother. He said, I'm sorry, I'm too busy. He said, I flew back. About a couple of weeks later, my mother passed away. He said, my father remained all by himself, living by himself. He said, after a while, my father fell ill as well. He called me. He started begging me. He said, just come, just for a couple of days. Come and ask about me. Come and see how I am. He said, I booked a ticket and I flew and I saw my father all by himself. No one to take care of him, and he was sick. He started begging me to stay so that I take care of him. I refused. I said, I can't. I have a store, I have a business, I have my wife and children, I need to go back. I need to go and take care of them. He started crying, begging me to stay. I refused. He said, I went back. A couple of days later, my father died. Today, he said, after this incident, I lost my wife. My wife divorced me. She took the kids. Just weeks later, I was diagnosed with cancer, and here I am about to die in the hospital. He said, I caused it. I caused my own illness and disease. No one else caused it for me. My dear brothers and sisters, these things happen. We cause them sometimes. We cause our own mishaps sometimes. We cause our own tragedies. Yaqub alayhi salam, Prophet Yaqub sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Prophet Yaqub was a prophet. He was infallible, he was sinless. Yet, sometimes even prophets make mistakes. Not sins, but sometimes they make a mistake. Prophet Yaqub was tested with his son, Yusuf alayhi salam. Yusuf went missing for how many years? 40 years. 40 years Yaqub and Yusuf were apart. After many years, after Yusuf came back and he met with his father, Yaqub had lost his eyes. He had become old. One day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him, Ya Yaqub, أتدري لمن قوست ظهرك? Do you know why I bent your back? وأعميت بصرك, and I took your eyesight. وابتليتك بفراق ولدك يوسف, and I tested you, I trialed you with the loss of your son Yusuf. Do you know why? Do you know why all of this happened to you? He said, why? He said, remember one day you were sitting at home with your wife and children, you were eating. Someone came and knocked the door. A poor person came and knocked the door and wanted some food. And you didn't give him any food. Remember that? You told them we don't have any food. And really, they didn't have any food. But they could have cooked him. Do you remember when you turned back that poor man? The result was that you were tested for 40 years. I took away Yusuf from you. Cause and effect. Even prophets are tested, as we shall mention. Even prophets face hardships and difficulties in their lives. What happened to Yusuf? Yusuf, for 40 years, he faced difficulties and problems. He left his family. He was put in a well. He was made into a slave. He faced prison. So many difficulties. One day, Prophet Yusuf looked at himself in a well. There were no mirrors back then. He looked at himself in a well and he thought to himself, wow, I'm really good looking. As most of us usually do when we look in the mirror. That's the thought that we think to ourselves. So we said, wow, I'm really good looking. If I were a slave, I would be worth millions. If I were a slave and someone wanted to buy me, they would buy me for millions. What was the result? وَشَرَوْهُ بِثَمَنٍ بَخْسٍ دَرَاهِمَ مَعْدُودٍ. They bought him for a very cheap price, the Quran says. وَشَرَوْهُ بِثَمَنٍ دَرَاهِمَ مَعْدُودٍ, only just a few dirhams. This is a result. Yusuf was arrogant just for 1 second. Just for 1 second. The result was he became a slave and they bought him for a few dirhams. And by the way, Yusuf was known for his what? He was known for what? His beauty. And in fact, a lot of the troubles that came to him was because of his beauty. Yusuf was known for his beauty. In fact, they say that if a woman is pregnant and she wants that child to be beautiful, she should recite Surah Yusuf. So my advice to my dear sisters, if you're pregnant or you plan on being pregnant and you want the child to be beautiful, recite Surah Yusuf. As you can tell, my mother did recite Surah Yusuf. This is the result, my dear brothers and sisters. When we perform certain actions, we see the results, whether they are good or whether they're bad. We see the consequences of our actions. Sometimes when evil comes to us, something bad happens to us, let's stop just for a minute and think, what have I done? What have I done? Have I done something to deserve this? Let's think back to our actions. Maybe even 10 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. Perhaps we've done something and now we see the consequences. Sallu ala Muhammad wa Prophet Musa alayhi salam, one day, he asked Allah. He said, "Allah, oh Allah, show me your justice. Ilahi arini adlak." Allah told him, okay. There's a mountain that overlooks a lake. Go and stand on top of that mountain, and you're going to see something. You will see my justice. Musa went, he stood on top of that hill, and he saw a lake. After a couple of minutes, he saw a knight, a man riding a horse. He came to this lake. He took off his clothes. He took off his belt. Before, they didn't have wallets. They had belts. For the brothers that have been to Hajj, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. The belts that have a pocket inside, you put your money in. This night he took off his belt that has all of his money. He took it off, he took off his clothes, and he went in for a swim. He came back out, he put on his clothes, he got on his horse, and he left. But he forgot to wear his what? His belt. His belt with all the money, he forgot it next to the lake. After a couple of minutes, another man came to this lake. He wanted to drink water from this lake. He saw a belt. He opened the belt and he saw that it's full of cash. He said, you know what? Today's my lucky day. He wore the belt and he left. After a couple of minutes, an old man came to the lake. To bathe, to drink water, I don't know. This old man came to the lake. As he was drinking or bathing, whatever it was that he was doing, the knight came back. The one on the horse, he came back looking for his belt. He saw the old man. He told him, where's my belt? Where's my money? He said, which money are you talking about? What belt? He told him, give me my belt. I know you took it. He said, which belt? And what money are you talking about? I didn't see a belt. He took out his sword. He told him, if you don't give me my money right now, your head is going to go off. The man said, I have no idea what you're talking about. The knight took out his sword and he cut off the head of the old man. Musa Kareem Allah, he would speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, oh Allah, I asked to see your justice, not your oppression. What I saw with my own eyes now was oppression, it wasn't justice. I told him, yeah, Musa, calm down. I will tell you what happened. As for the knight who left his belt, who left his money, and the second man came and took his money, that second man, he demanded his money from the knight many years ago, and the knight refused to give him his money. The knight owed this man. He owed him money. And this belt, that same exact money that he owed him, it was there. I gave it back to him. He told him, well, what about the old man that died innocently? Allah told him, no, he didn't die innocently. You think he died innocently, but he didn't die innocently. 20 years ago, this old man killed the father of this knight innocently. After 20 years, the knight seeks revenge for the death of his father. This is justice. 20 years. 20 years. A person committed a crime and he sees the result after 20 years. This could happen. Don't think that if you forget about it, if we forget about some of our actions, some of our sins, we think that Allah also forget. No, my dear friends, Allah doesn't forget. Allah doesn't forget our actions. Thus, this could be one of the reasons why we see difficulties and trials and tribulations in our lives. We have other reasons. There are some people that haven't committed a sin. You might say that, well, sometimes bad things happen to good people, people that don't sin, people that don't commit mistakes and sins, but we still see bad things happening to them. How do you explain that? Well, let me ask you a question. If there's a top medical school in this country, I don't know what schools there are, what universities there are. For example, back in the United States of America, there's a couple of top medical schools, top universities. For example, we have Harvard, Stanford, Yale, Berkeley, universities like this. If you apply to a medical school without being tested, without passing an exam, you go and you tell them, I'm a good student. I get good grades. I'm a smart student. And they accept you? Will they tell you, Ahlan wa sahlan? Come on in. Be one of our students? Absolutely not. There's an exam that you need to pass. There's an exam that every student needs to pass in order to be accepted at a medical school or law school. If you apply to a job, you apply for any job. Is it enough that you go and tell them that I have experience, I have the required education, and I have an experience, and I have a good CV? Is that enough? Or you have to show them the CV. You have to show them your prior experience. You have to bring them recommendations. Which is it? Don't you have to be tested first? You go and you propose to a family for marriage. But not like our friend who was chewing gum. You go and propose to a family for marriage and they don't even know you. They don't even know you. Is it enough that you go and tell them that I have a good reputation? And that I am this and I am that and I come from this family? Or are they going to go and ask about you? They're going to test you. They're going to test your faith and akhlaq. Of course, life is based on tests. Whether you apply to a university, whether you apply for a job, whether you propose for marriage. People are going to test you. You have to prove yourself. But why is it that when we come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we think that it's enough to tell Allah that we love you and we have faith in you and that's it? Is that enough? That we just tell Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we love Him, and that we respect Him, and that we have faith in Him, and that we don't expect any tests and trials. We don't expect Allah to test our faith, to test our patience. I have a friend, he says, Sayyid, my wife, no matter what I do, I can't prove to her that I love her. She expects me to call her 16 times a day from work to tell her I love you. Well, this is his test. He has to prove himself. Saying I love you to her is not enough. He has to prove himself. It's the same with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just telling Him that we love Him and that we have faith in Him, this is not enough. Allah will put us into tests, into difficult tests sometimes, to see are we genuine or are we not genuine. Just saying I have faith in Allah before the tragedy or even after the tragedy. Before the car accident or even after the car accident. Before losing the job or even after the job, I will stick and say, I have faith in Allah. There are some, when they're living comfortably, when everything is smooth and nice, when they have a job, when they have a wife, when they have kids, when everything runs smoothly, they have faith. But if one problem goes wrong, if they lose a job or get in a car accident, they lose faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They begin to say, Allah is not fair. Allah is not just. Why did this have to happen to me? Why did it happen to my neighbor? Have you seen some people? They honestly want bad, not to happen to them, but let it happen to their neighbor, it's okay. Their cousin, that's fine. But as long as no evil happens to them, you start questioning Allah's will and Allah's wisdom and Allah's justice. They say if Allah was fair, this would not have happened to me. This is not genuine faith. These people are fooling themselves. Abi Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam has a beautiful quote. He says, "An-nasu abidu dunya." People are slaves of this life and of this dunya. وَالْدِينُ لَعِقٌ عَلَىٰ أَلْسُنَتِهِمْ. And that religion is just nonsense words that they say. It's just words without meaning, without practice. فَإِذَا مُحْصُوا بِالْبَلَاءِ وَلَا الدَّيَانُ. Let them face a tragedy, you don't see anyone religious anymore. People are religious as long as they're living comfortably. As long as no one harms them. As long as they have food, they have a job, they have a family, they're able to pay off their mortgage, they're religious. But let one thing go wrong, they lose their faith. You don't see them religious anymore. That's why these tragedies, these problems, these obstacles that we face in our lives, they filter out the religious from the non-religious. It's a filter. Those who pass, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala filters out the religious from the non-religious. If we're able to pass these tests and trials, that means we are genuinely religious and faithful. If we didn't, that means that we were opportunistic. We were friends with Allah as long as Allah was taking care of us. But the minute that Allah decided to put us in a trial, put us in a test, we lose faith in Him. It serves as a filter. As a filter. And believe it or not, many people, they fail the test. Many people, they fail the test. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests some people. Some people live a religious life all their life. But Allah tests them the last days of their life and they fail with iyadhu billah. And this is the toughest part. Shaitan, Iblis, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him to prostrate to Adam, Iblis had worshipped Allah 6,000 years. Not a year or 2 years or 3 years. 6,000 years he used to worship Allah. Allah tested him. He said, bow down to Adam. He refused. Arrogance took over. أنا أفضل منه. خلقتني من نار وخلقته من طين. He told Allah, how can I'm a better being. I'm a superior being. I'm created from fire and He's created from sand. How do you expect me to prostrate to someone who's created from sand?
Iblis lost the test. There were many that lived a good life, a religious life, as long as they were doing good. Allah tested them. The last moment, they failed the test. Az-Zubayr was the cousin of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the cousin of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and the cousin of Fatima al-Zahra. Al-Zubayr spent his whole lifetime with Rasulullah and with Amir al-Mu'mineen. In fact, he was a fierce defender of Rasulullah. In the battles, he would stand right in front of Rasulullah, making sure that no harm would reach the Prophet.